Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NLC. I'm HitPrain, and I am joined by Aragon. Aragon, second time back. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, HitPrain. Thank you. I'm super excited to get into today's games.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get into today's games. I think we got some bangers coming up, and I think without further ado, let's just bring up the quick schedule and see what games we've got coming up today on the NLC. We will be starting off with Domino versus Ruddy, then Unique versus Veneer, then Riddle versus Natives, and we rounded the day out with Nord versus Verdant. I think what we'll do is we'll just move this straight over towards the predictions from the casters as well and see what we've all kind of been going for here. I'm not doing so hot on the prediction front. I mean, 83% is not bad, but it's not good. And you know what? I genuinely don't remember ticking Unique, but here we go. I am separating myself from the pack with this Unique vote. I'm very confidently locking in here.
I mean, in fairness, I think that's one of the closer games of the day, right? Like, I don't think you could go too wrong. I saw you place this prediction a while back, and I genuinely think there's a chance, you know, if I'm going to make a mistake, or if any of the rest of us are going to make mistakes in predictions, I think that's probably the game where that will happen.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. That is a game where Unique right now are 0-3 and Veneer are 1-2. So both the teams are actually very close in the standings on that front. Obviously, everyone's going for Veneer because they've got that single win under their belt. So it gives them a little bit more of an advantage going further forward. But as you can see, that final game of the day, there's a little bit of varying opinions there as well as Middle Cop going towards Verdant instead of Nord. But for the rest of the day, it genuinely looks like we've kind of all in the same areas, in the same kind of footing on where we think the teams are going to be placing today. Looking at the overall standings, there are a few games which, Aragon, I think we are predicting are going to be a little bit stumpy. I think we do actually have the overall scores and how everybody's doing right now. The standings, that's the word I'm looking for. So we can see how everybody is faring right now. At the moment, Nord are 3-0, Verdant are 3-0, Riddle are 3-0, then Ruddy are in 2-1, Veneer 1-2, and then Domino, Natives, and Unique all 0-3. So struggling a little bit towards the bottom of the pack, but at the moment, you know, we're having a few teams break out, but nobody has statistically established themselves as the best team in the league. But I think, you know, Aragon, you have opinions on this. You know, you feel that there are teams like Riddle who maybe do stand out as the best team right now in the league.
Yeah, you know, for sure. I think there are teams, and interestingly enough, I also think that chart is a bit deceptive, right? I think there are teams there where their standings, they don't reflect the level of gameplay. For example, I think Veneer could be higher. If they played more games, I 100% reckon that Veneer could be top 4, actually. But yeah, for sure. The teams that stand out to me are definitely Riddle. I think on the lower end, you have teams like Natives, but everywhere in between, I think right now that's up for debate because there haven't been enough games played.
Yeah, well, that actually brings me on to our second game of the day, which is going to be Unique versus Veneer. Like you're saying, you think Veneer technically doing better than you expected. You did also, and I don't know if you were just giving me a little bit of copium there or what, but you did say, you know, you think this is going to be a closer game or one of our closer games of the day. Why do you think that Unique and Veneer are going to be closer versus each other today?
I'm hoping that we haven't seen what's best out of Unique yet, and they still have a ceiling that they can reach. Because I did look at their individual players, and I do respect them, right? For example, I respect Nihus, right? I definitely think he's an incredible carry top laner who always has good results. But I do think, despite being the most close game of the day, I don't think that means it's that close. I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you, but I still think it'll be quite a stomp, and that you're probably going to be wrong. I do think Veneer is heavily favored. It's just the least stompy game for me.
Okay, all right. Well, then game number 2, I think is going to be a bit of a stompy one where we got Riddle versus Natives right now. 3-0 and 0-3. Riddle, like you were saying, you just think these guys are the best team in the league. Yeah. I think it's a fair assessment as well. These guys have just been looking super crisp. What do Natives need to do in this game if they want to try and find themselves a win?
I mean, that's a super difficult question. I think that's incredibly difficult, actually, man. You set me up for a really hard one. I think it's hard. I think you need to set up an identity, right? I think, without going too deep into it, we can get there when we get there at the game. I think they're having issues in the mid lane, potentially, with Unexpected. I think maybe rounding off his champ pool, maybe more supportive style picks, because they are going for this, like, they're going for his pool, right? They're playing Talia, which is a bit off meta, but it's not really paying off. Usually he ends up doing nothing, and the identity isn't there. So I actually liked Natives the most when they had the team playing for Flawed, right? I think Flawed is a really good jungle, the best player on the team by far, and they had more supporter picks, like double Enchanter plus Flawed carry kind of deal. I think that's probably the best way they go about it. As for Riddle, they're just too damn good individually. Like, I won't lie,
Yeah.
I tweeted before the first set of games, or maybe after the first set of games, I tweeted, I think Riddle are going to win the league. And a really heavy portion of that was average elo and just how good they are individually. If you just look at Fire Rain, the man is like rank 5 on a US. What is he doing here, you know? He's incredible, and he played LCK, so yeah, I think they're just going to get outclassed individually, and there won't be any team play there.
Okay, so let's actually deep dive into this a little bit with Riddle then, because
Yeah, sure.
I think we could also go beyond, NLC and look towards, the EMEA and look at the fact that, individually, Riddle are very stacked. Do they actually match up well as a team, or do you think they are just getting by off pure talent alone right now? And do you think that might come back to bite them? Or do you think you are seeing glimmers, or even just, not even glimmers, just solid setup for these guys actually functioning as a unit together?
See, I think we have seen good individual play out of Riddle, but I don't think they've been completely tested yet, right? It's early in the season,
Yeah.
Every team's still gelling, right? That's really important. On top of that, the team that was supposed to challenge them in Ruddy, I think we saw a really bad version of them where their draft was just terrible, right? I think we saw like half of what Ruddy is capable of, and honestly, I want to see a rematch of that so that we can test Riddle again. Of course, I also want to see Riddle versus Nord, all these top tier matchups. But yeah, I see glimmers of individual play, like you were asking, but not enough yet to comment.
Yeah, so that's obviously the thing we're going to be tracking now is, are Riddle just good because of their individuals, or are they good as a whole and as a unit? Because I think that's what defines a E-Masters champion team, or, well, I mean, not E-Masters anymore, but, a team that actually step up when they go up versus all the other ERL teams is a team that actually can stand on their own as individuals, but also function highly effectively as a full unit. So I'm excited to see what, when these guys do get together. Obviously, they got the 2 Koreans. English isn't a problem for this team as well, because they all are fluent in English as well. So there's no kind of communication problems. So, we don't have to worry about that. It's just, do they work as a team, or are they going to be individual? But I think this now leads us on to our final game of the day and our match of the day as well. Verdant versus Nord. Both of these teams right now are 3-0 in the standings. I mean, you look at those rosters, they are incredibly stacked, and this is going to be a big game to round the day out on. This is game number 4.
Yeah, I mean, I see these rosters, I'm just terrified because I honestly, in a way, I kind of see Nord as a better Verdant, right? Like, the identities of these teams, they're pretty similar. You have WoW and Nille, who have been really monster carries in their own right so far in all the games, right? You see Nille winning lane all the time on his own, in isolation. The exact same with WoW. They're both just getting solo kills. Then you have Tax or Akabane, sorry, I mispronounced your name. They are both popping off in their own right too. I mean, obviously you don't need to talk about Taxa. He's just stealing every single objective there is. And then Akabane is just making plays all over the map. And the same about bot lane.
It's so good. It's such a good meme.
I forgot about this meme. I actually forgot. That caught me off guard. But then you see the bot lane as well, and you see really stable players, really solid, Kevo, and then on the flip side, you have Kasing and Woolite. These players are not going to lose the game for the team. They are incredibly similar. I want to see which one comes out on top today.
Yeah, I genuinely, this final game is going to be very, very fun, because I think at this point, if this is stompy, there's an element of, okay, was that just an off game, or are the top teams starting to define themselves, and then are kind of like second to third teams starting to kind of settle into their positions? Or, if this is a close game, it actually gives a real, not a ray of hope, that's the wrong term I'm looking for here, but like, it gives an element of, excitement towards the rest of the season, because it actually means that we could be due for some very close games and some really, really strong teams front running. I mean, to me, whenever I did back NLC Div 2, something that me and Jamada always loved when we used to do it together was how tight the top end used to get, and how the teams are just split in 2 directions, like the bottom of the table teams and then the top of the table teams, and it used to always be really, really tight and down to that last week. I'm hoping we get that with Div 1 now, where we're going to see these teams in that final week still be, fighting for first, second, third, and actually not have a clearly defined best team. Obviously, having a clearly best team looks good going in to EMEA, but I also, for the home storylines, I'm kind of all about it. But let's talk a little bit about our first game of the day, as we will be shifting our focus towards that. It's going to be Ruddy versus Domino. Now, Domino 0-3, so not doing as hot. Ruddy 2-1. Obviously, they were a team who we have very high expectations on, but they did drop their game versus God, who was it? Nord? Oh, I've forgotten. I've already lost my place there.
Ruddy dropped that. Did you say Domino or Ruddy? Because Ruddy dropped that team game against Riddle. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, Riddle. Yeah, so I mean, Ruddy lost to Riddle. Obviously, we had closer expectations from that game. Like you were saying, Aaron, you thought it kind of came down to the draft between those two in that game?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I think it's two things. I think the draft is a really big one. You see all over Twitter, I mean, Ruddy even posted a video of No Name saying he's not going to pick Lee Sin again, right? Shout out to them, great social media. But it was just so bad, right? It was terrible. Okay, so and to break down why, it's just, it lacked direction, okay? You drafted Rise, okay, which is great. It's a power pick in its own right, but you need to complement Rise with side lanes that you can play towards. And they didn't do that, right? They had a Yuumi bot lane, which provides no setup and dive potential or anything like this. You draft Cassante top when there was just way better picks that you could potentially set up dives and play for slow pushes with. So that didn't work. The Rise just had no purpose outside of maybe facilitating the Lee Sin pick with a Rise route, but that's a stretch, you know? That's a very thin win condition. On top of that, you give R5 counter pick to Rifty, and you don't even use it well. Like, there's an argument where Rifty actually counterpicked himself, right? Because, you know, Cassante into Camille, whilst it's not that bad, it's not exactly a good counterpick, and it doesn't synergize with the team. However, I will say, yesterday was a big improvement, right? Yesterday's draft was much better. It was much more coherent. The champion picks complemented each other. You had Varus plus Maokai, for example, which is a good combination in its own right, because Maokai saplings in the dragon fight, I'm sure you've all seen how everyone will run into the Maokai saplings, and then they'll just get pegged in the chest by a Varus Q, right? Because they're all slowed, so it gels. There's a purpose, team fights. I'm really glad to see that, because they're showing week-on-week improvement.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we are only in the second week. So, you know, we're talking as if we've been way further into this league, but I think it's partly because we've just had some teams showing a lot of strength already. Considering a lot of these teams didn't really lock in their final rosters and stuff until not long before the season started. You know, normally by now the teams would have had a little bit of a longer off season where they would have had some more time together, but we were talking to people on week one and they're like, yeah, we've only had like 2-3 weeks to play together before going into the season. So, you know, for a lot of the teams, we had expectations that maybe they were going to be a little bit kind of slow to start, but it felt like a lot of these teams did sprint out the gate. Maybe for Ruddy, that drafting was kind of a symptom of kind of later like preparation and not having as much time. There is always that as maybe an excuse or a fallback on that front. I'm gonna be excited to see what the draft phase looks like, because we haven't had a patch since last week on competitive as far as I'm aware. I really should check these things before we go live. So we're kind of expecting more of that, unfortunately fairly stale meta, but you know, it also means we do kind of know what we've got going on and what we're coming into it. So I'm very excited to see what Ruddy are going to be drafting, and you know what Domino can do to kind of come back, because we talked a little bit about the bot lane, and we talked about this off air when we were doing our prep. But you know, Voxney is very much a power farmer and a late game insurance for a team. And I feel like if you're Domino, the best time to push an advantage is in the mid game. Don't lose lanes too hard in the early game. Just kind of go even. And then when you hit that level 6 mark, start to set up plays. Maybe just send multiple people into bot lane to shut Voxney down. Because he typically, when he falls behind, will just disappear and go farm off for a style. A bit like old school Reckless, where he just goes and gathers like 300 CS and then shows up to the end game and just like starts carrying the game. So I feel like if Domino want to get ahead, I think mid game is going to be their window in.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, right? They can't lose lane too hard early. I think this has definitely been a weakness of Domino. Last week, I remember a game where they just lost the game in 3 minutes because they drafted full topside win condition, and Fjumpbun died to a 3 camp gank, which is, by the way, completely unacceptable in this meta. No flame at all. But, you know, they lose the game in 3 minutes, and then they don't get to mid game, and they don't get chances to come back, right, with that kind of draft as well. So Yesterday, however, we did see a new kind of breath of life in Domino. We actually saw them surviving the early game and potentially putting up a fight. We saw them, punishing Nord on this Rift Herald type deal. But it does look like we've actually gotten to Champs League, which is super nice. Viewer insta-ban to Fjumpbun. This is really common versus him. He's actually a super carry top player, right? I imagine they're going to ban the Jace, the Fiora, this sort of thing that he's typically picking recently, maybe the Renekton. But honestly, I'd prefer they don't pick Renekton. I got kind of thrown off a little bit because the names are the wrong way around. But,
I was about to say we will swap the graphics. They are the wrong way around. But on the side of Domino, Fjumpbun is the PowerPoint. He is who we are going to be looking for to kind of carry Domino. This, for anybody who's joining us this week, Fjumpbun is formerly known as Flaxish, so it should be a name you should be well aware of in the top lane. The problem is he's playing into Rifty, and Rifty really just doesn't give much in the lane. Like, even if it's an unfair lane and he's technically in a losing matchup, normally what Rifty does at that point is he just falls back and he just doesn't give up too much. And he's a very, very stable top laner. So I feel like Domino's win condition is versus someone who can really tank and weather that storm. So Porcupine's going to have to put a lot of attention in towards his top lane. As we are now rounding out the draft. The Jax is going to get banned away from Rifty there. We've got the Sejuani, the Yuumi, the Ryze, and the Jax. And we'll see what the first pick is going to be here for Ruddy, sorry. And they just instantly lock in that Ashe there. Could go support, could go AD carry. There is a bit of flexibility on that front. Let's see what Domino are going to answer back with.
Yeah, so the Ashe pick, basically becoming increasingly meta around the world, just abuses Halo Blades, flex pick to bot and support, and essentially it just makes laning against it like hell, like complete hell, because you just cannot walk up without being double Halo Blade slowed. I'm thinking pairing it off with something like Varus, which they've now denied because they don't want to play against Varus Ashe, which is becoming an increasingly potent bot lane to play against, right? No more Halo Blade spam, but still potential to pair off Ashe with something like a Heimerdinger, into that Varus.
I also want to note
that Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go on. I was just gonna say I do want to note that the Vi is also up as well. So if you're on the side of Ruddy, like a Vi Ashe gives you so much just single target pick potential. Like, someone dies if you target those with that front. The Wukong is actually gonna be the lock-in here for the side of of Domino. They got swapped around again.
Swapped back.
I was like, wait, I'm pretty sure Rifty's on Ruddy. But yeah, so they do lock in that. Let's see what Ruddy are going to look to actually put in the jungle. They go for the Elise here. Interesting. So again, it's still single target CC. I mean, it's not the guaranteed CC of the Vi, but now Ruddy probably looking towards a top lane pick actually, and picking the Cassante for Rifty.
Yeah, securing Cassante for Rifty, incredibly important to secure Rifty a good matchup because he is one of their star players. Sorry, the Lee Sin hovers are just cracking me up because they're referencing the Lee Sin game, which went terribly last week. The Elise is super interesting though. It signals to me that they're probably going to play through bot side, okay? Because typically with these perma-pushing bot sides where you draft like double AD carry with like an Ashe support or something like this, you are perma-pushing the enemy under tower and poking them. This is why Elise has risen up in the meta a little bit. And you just go bot lane into the poked enemy and just dive them. It's incredibly easy. Elise is just a good champ. She's had about like 4 buffs over the past 2 years, really good stuff. On the other hand, now though, we see a Renekton picked into the Cassante. Really good matchup in and of its own right. I don't like it on Flaxish though. Okay, so
really?
In terms of what I want, on its own, yes, in isolation. But when you are the sole carry of your team as Flaxish, and you could argue that Porcupine's been doing well, I think Flaxish has been the best player. You don't want to play a champion where if you die once, the game is over, right? And that's what Renekton is, because he is going to die. He's shown he dies a lot, in lane. He gets ganked, he gets camped, or whatever. And then you could say, well, he shouldn't die, he should just play better. But the reality is they're not as good of a team as Ruddy. So when it comes to drafting as a worst team, I would much prefer that Domino drafted more scaling. A lane bully into Cassante like Gnar, which if you do fall behind, it's not completely doomed.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I think of Flimpburn or Flaxis, I do think of Renekton and Jax basically is like the 2 champs that come to mind when that name's said. So it's interesting that, you feel in this matchup, and I think it makes sense, if he does die, especially into the likes of a Cassante, his lane is mega doomed. And like we were saying, he is kind of who we're looking to see carry the game. I don't know if I agree on the scaling front though, because I do think if you're playing into the likes of someone like Denvoxney, late game is always going to be really rough. I feel like someone who does spike in the early/mid would be a good opportunity for the side of Flunkman, but, you know, he's going to lock his Renekton. We'll see if Porcupine just puts a lot of attention and gets this lane snowballing, as the bans have gone out and it's all been mid lane. The Syndra, the Azir, the Orianna. We'll see what this final ban's going to be, if it's another mid laner. Trying to think who left open. Silas is up and available if they... Oh, they just skipped the ban. Okay.
They skipped the ban?
An idiot.
Oh.
I totally forgot they skipped the ban there. All right, so see what they're actually going to be locking in this bot lane. It looks like it's going to be the Lux, I assume, for Snabby here, unless that's like a mid lane Lux for Shaolin, which that would get me very excited. But I'm assuming it's going to be a Varus Lux. Very, very heavy poke lane with a lot of mixed damage as well, which just makes it quite hard to itemize against. So let's see what Ruddy are going to look to try and answer out with here. Obviously, they are looking towards a support or a AD carry for the bot lane. And it looks like they are going to be locking this Ashe in as a support and going for the poke with the Jhin here to round it out.
Yeah, so like I was saying, double ranged plus Elise is a standard combo right now. And then, like you were saying, the Sylas blind. I think, I'm not supposed to really talk about hovers, but I think the Sylas or the Ahri would be really good because they're good blind picks, especially when everything is like already banned. You could argue that it doesn't actually matter too much because there are so many options. However, what I'm seeing right now, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by the fact that it's such a volatile bot side and top side for the side of Domino, right? I don't really like drafts like this where you have both sides of the map where you need resources invested into both of them, you know? Renekton wants resources, right? He doesn't just want to sit top lane against Cassante, and this is why I don't really like it here. Then on the other hand, you have Varus and Lux perma-pushing bot sides that also want resources. Have I been trolled? I don't think it's Lux mid. It's never Lux mid.
No, I want Lux mid so bad, but it's not going to happen. I mean, it's okay into the Victor. You just outrange him, but like, no, I'm joking. You don't. They're going for the Akali. So, all right, Aragon, talk to me a little bit about these comps, because obviously this is a very, very long-range poke-heavy bot lane on both sides. I'm excited to see, you know, what your general thoughts on how these teams are going to function as then. So, what are we expecting from this game?
Yeah, okay, so I see, at least in early game, I see a lot of aggression coming out of Domino. A mid lane's going to get pushed in, by the Victor's going to push in the Akali, but topside, you have a top side you can play for, and a bot side you can play for. The problem is Wukong and Renekton don't really synergize in what they want to do, right? Yes, you have a bit of gank setup, but what Renekton likes to do is perma-push and set up dives, okay? You aren't really going to be able to dive with this combo, in my opinion. You also can't move Akali up to dive as well, because she's going to be perma-pushed in, and she doesn't really come online until level 6, right? So what I expect is actually a lot of volatility around bot side. Okay, you have double heavy ranged bot side and a really, really aggressive jungler in No Name's Elise. Okay, you're going to see perm pushing. Whoever gets the push is just going to facilitate dives and ganks.
Yeah, well, I'm very excited about it, the flexibility of these drafts and, you know, what they can do, you know, where they look to go and focus. I do obviously have the worry, but, you know, Ruddy do look like a clear-cut better team. I mean, without the nameplates, I think drafting, this is actually quite an interesting game, and there's a lot of different ways this can go. I do think when you do turn those nameplates on, Ruddy, you know, bar their loss to Riddle, have looked very, very consistently strong. And I know we're only 3 games in of the season, and this is, you know, our 4th game of the whole season. But I do think, you know, Ruddy have been clear at least in that top 3 area right now. When Domino, they're struggling to even get off the ground. 0-3 right now, having a rough start for it. But I do think, you know, they've given themselves some tools to work with. Obviously, like you said, top lane can be quite volatile when you're on this Renekton. But, you know, on the other side, if we do see Flunkboon get ahead on the Renekton, I mean, ahead of Renekton is really, really monstrous to deal with. I'm sure, Aragon, you've dealt with it enough in your time as a top laner. Yeah. So it's obviously, you know, you can always poke holes and say, you know, if the Renekton dies early, this game's going to be really rough for them. On the other side, I do think, you know, if they can get the Renekton ahead, if they can just put a bit of attention into it, he can potentially set up Shaolin to get to the point where Shaolin can then look to overtake the game. Snabby and Laurie can probably play this game fairly safe. Attention's being put topside because they've got a lot of range, they've got a lot of poke. You know, diving into a Lux and a Varus, especially post 6, is incredibly hard when you've got to get through the binding, the chains, a lot of burst potential. It's always going to be a rough one on that front. But for now, Ruddy, you working as a team here and just looking to get some dominance in the area and just see if they can spot out where Porcupine will be starting. Porcupine on the other side is going to get a blue ward down on that top side of the jungle, so he can just kind of have a bit of vision on where No Name is pathing around.
And just posturing there, not going to look for the flash cocoon to swap flashes because an Elise with cocoon start simply can't clear, right? It's really, really bad. So not going to opt into that. A lot of good scouting coming down. This is really important on these early ganking junglers, especially in this meta where you do something like a 3-camp gank, you know. But my eyes in the early game are definitely going to be on Porcupine. Porcupine has shown, especially in his last game, that he wasn't afraid to take risks and gank mid, right? He punished Fury again in the game versus Nord, and he successfully killed him. So on this Wukong, expecting a bit of action, you know, maybe ganks onto mid lane, onto Niter, maybe ganks top lane or bot lane. He has the, you know, the pick of the litter, really.
Yeah, he really does. Just going to go for, it looks like potentially a full clear here. We'll see exactly what his pathing is going to look like as Nash and Voxney actually getting onto Larry nice and early. He has to flash. And the heal comes out from Snabby as well.
And that is just the power of the Hail of Blades. This is what I was talking about in Champ Select, right? Ash with the Hail of Blades, you get tagged by one auto attack. Suddenly, Ash hits you with every single one, and Voxney just lines them up with the grenades too, and he has to pop his flash. This is not a good look for the side of Domino.
No, not at all. That was really, really rough. Now, Porcupine is on the bottom side of the jungle. Larry has gone back and reset, so he's going to lose out on, you know, a little bit of this wave. It looks like the ping's coming down from No Name. He knows Porcupine's there. He spotted him on the ward. Porcupine will see No Name come around thanks to his own ward as the cocoon doesn't hit onto Porcupine, instead hitting onto the Gromp, saving his life. Does have that smite, is able to pick it up as in jumps the rest of the team. The Ash arrow is, well, the Ash volley going to force 2 flashes out. And now they are 3 flashes down on the side of Domino. And No Name, he's level 3 on the Elise. He's set up for this dive as the Spiderling's going to proc. The Q's not going to go quite wide enough. They're going to force the teleport in as the grenade jumps between and Voxney is able to secure first blood.
And look at the wave mid. It's not for free either. The Akali's Shaolin's going to be losing so much CS mid lane as he's getting pushed in by this Victor. This was a desperation teleport in the hopes of saving bot lane, but then bot lane dies anyway. Look at Akali. She's having to path all the way around this time, taking another extra 10-15 seconds to potentially miss a whole 2 waves. Really bad stuff. And now, maybe the redive.
It's so easy release because Elise takes the aggro, starts it off. Then Voxney's got red buff, so he can do all the damage necessary. The cleanse ain't gonna do enough. No Name secures the kill.
I think we're witnessing a murder. This feels so bad to see. And honestly, the MVP, the hidden MVP right here is Nash. Every single play starts off with him completely one-shotting someone with this Halo Blaze Ash every single time. The first flash away and then the second redive, every single time it's always Nash. We saw him yesterday as well with the plays on the Recon, getting that 4-man knockup. So honestly, just having a terror of a week.
Absolutely killer stuff coming in from this guy. And it looks like right now, Shaolin having a bit of problem in the mid lane as well. That rotation, that teleport into that bot side to try and stop the kill.
That CS lead
has bit him in the backside. Look at the CS lead. Yeah, it's absolutely huge. And the big thing is, Knight has not burnt any pots as well. So, like, he's just been having such a freebie lane. He's just going to go back to the base, get himself a reset, buy that tier. He's still got teleport himself so he can get back into lane and basically give up none of that dominance, but keeps that mana stacking up for himself. Flumpun down 10 CS as well to Rifty. This was kind of like the glimmering hope for these guys. And Flumpun struggling right now, is trying to see if he can get a trade versus Rifty, but Rifty is going to be able to come out the better from that trade as well. And actually has got the Q fully charged up. So if he can land this, this might be a scary moment for Flumpun, but he's able to dash away with a slice and dice. And it is already looking a little bit dire for Domino in the early stages. 2,000 gold lead at 5 minutes.
And Rifty there with a showcase of mechanics. Porcupine desperately looking for a play in the mid lane. Depends if this cocoon lands.
He's going to jump in with the Venomous Bite. He has to switch into Spiderling form. Can land the cocoon. The spider follows as well. He doesn't have the damage to kill him. 15 HP. And the monkey's out.
And then look at bot lane. Look at that perma pushing bot lane. It's like they're setting up for another dive with No Name running down. He's not even farming. He's just going from tower, mid lane to bot lane over and over again and looking for these plays whilst also counter jungling. I don't even think he's done his top side, his blue buff yet. He's just permanently invading and making plays with his team's priority. It just showcases the power of this double AD carry bot side. This is why we're seeing in the LCK. This is why we're seeing in the LPL with supports like Carrier taking this. And on top of that, Ash is so fed, Nash is so fed that she might just recall soon and get a serrated Dirk, and then what do you do, right? Like, it's actually impossible to contest at that point, and you're just going to get one shot.
But they know Porcupine's in the area. No Name does not give a damn. You can see him on the pink ward now. Throws out the cocoon. Does go a little bit wide. But remember, Nash is also in that area. So this is scary for Porcupine. Does eat a little bit of damage. Snabby's coming in. If he can land this, maybe they could set up for something here. The heals come out from Nash. There's enough movement speed to dodge away. In comes the damage, though. And No Name's able to execute the kill. Then Voxy can keep the damage up as No Name flashes out. No, he misses the Shuriken flip. And Porcupine will pay the price. The curtain has been called. Larry on the run. And the lockdown lands onto Shaolin as Nita secures the kill. The final shot will not land onto Larry, but 3 members fall on the bottom side of the map as Ruddy don't lose a soul.
And a 3 for 0 for the side of Ruddy. What is this? What is this team? They are completely playing differently from yesterday and the last weeks. They have seriously improved. And we get the replay here. You can start, it shows Shaolin tries to flash to land the Shuriken, right? But that misses. So after that, there's just no way a level 5 Akali can actually take part. In the entire fight, though, then Voxney managed to hit level 6 and the curtain call comes down. Unfortunately, we didn't see the beginning of that because there was some excellent micro there in terms of just dodging skill shots from the side already. It looks like they're all on the same page and focusing the right targets. And just the quality of their skirmishing, it's a really important metric that's hard to tell. But when everyone's on the same page and they're using their cooldowns on the right targets at the same time, off cooldown, you know, it's a really good thing to see. And that's what we're seeing from Ruddy right here. Just superior skirmishing.
Yeah, Ruddy honestly are playing fantastically well. Really, really good stuff coming in from them. As Voxney just using the power advantage he's got here in this lane. He's got that crit cloak. He's got himself the Noon Quiver and the Swifties as well. So he's just a speedy boy. Gets those crits, gets the movement speed, and dashes in and out and away from all of the CC and just the burst. And poke, I guess, is not really burst at this point. It's just flat old poke. As Flumpen has rotated into the bottom, well, the mid area to see if he can spot out anything going on. Seeing as his lane's pretty far away from him, and unfortunately, not able to find anything. I think the real problem right now is Flumpen was the glimmering hope, and he can't do anything. That was a interesting flash there by Snabby to try and find the binding. I don't actually think they would have had kill potential even if it landed.
I mean, you're feeling the desperation, aren't you? Your top side is losing, mid is losing because of the roam and the teleport earlier, and now you just know you're trying to cross-map a dragon into that Rift Herald, which is secured by No Name, and you just got to wonder, where are they going to put their foot on the gas? Which lane is going to hit the goal? I would probably put it onto the Victor, I think, as sole AP. I guess you have an Elise. You probably put it onto her, but maybe they just look for a dive topside because that turret is so low already.
Aragon, can you just quickly look at the levels between both mid and AD carry right now? There's 2 levels between them. Shaolin has just ticked over to 7, and Nita's not even in lane. So he's obviously not going to hit 9 yet. And Flumpen, the Herald's gone down, and it looks like it's going to go down in the top side. They're going to throw everything down. He flashes forward into the laser beam. No Name's able to jump away to safety. The minion taxi out. He's able to survive just a little longer. Shaolin chasing after No Name. Can Rifty come in and save the day? A blast cone will be coming up nice and soon for No Name. He needs to avoid. He's able to do so. Rifty now finds himself in the fight versus Shaolin, and Shaolin has Nita pincing down on him. No Name limps out with 40 HP from all of that action, and they get the kill onto Flumpen. Porcupine now trying to see if he can find an opportunity here in the bottom side of the map. Nash is buying space. He's going to get jumped onto here. The Cyclone's popped, but I don't think the damage is going to be there in time. I am totally wrong here because Voxney can't finish up Porcupine, and Nash goes down in response. So 1-for-1 globally.
And the first kill coming out for Domino. This is exactly what they needed. Honestly, just a bloodbath all the way across the map. On that first play with Fjumpbon, you've got to feel bad for him because he played that about as mechanically perfect as you possibly can. I can't do what he did. He flashed over an Elise Cocoon, a skill shot. I swear, every time I do that, I get hit. So really well done to Fjumpbon. Doesn't turn it, and No Name lives on 1 HP. No Name is having an absolute corker of a game. Watch this flash over the Cocoon. Flumpton tries his absolute best, gets No Name down to 1 HP, and then Shaolin cannot finish off No Name. All the meanwhile, I believe, oh no.
Larry. Poor guy.
Oh,
Poor
no.
guy. I just had the producer say apologies, but I think, honestly, I think that was so quick, nobody would have seen that coming. I think he just got popped. He's got the Hextech alternator, he's got the Sork boots. level 7 versus level 6. I just think it's a one-shot at this point. Brutal. Well, Herald's getting summoned in the bot lane. They are deciding that they're not going to use it top lane, and instead, they want to continue the Denvoxy snowball. I talked about how, you know, Denvoxy is a late-game hyper carry player. He's just brought late game to himself. Like, he's just going to be so far ahead, but, like, scaling just will be irrelevant for Denvoxy here. Should be able to pick up this tower. He's got plenty of time as well before the plates wear off, so it's going to be a freebie over to him. He's making sure as much of the wave dies as possible as well. Whatever bouncing grenade to clear through the cannon and the rest of that wave is Porcupine trying to do what No Name's done to him, is actually able to pick that one up and jump away. His team have all rotated up. Snabby has kind of just given up on the lost cause that is that bot lane, and is instead now looking to put some attention in to try and rotate around the map and set his team up elsewhere.
Yeah, and you were talking about Denvoxy getting the late game brought to him. You've got to be really happy. As an AD carry, this is just like your favorite kind of game. Your support is 1v3ing the lane at the moment, and you just get to sit there hitting plates. So I'd be happy if I was him. I completely agree with you. On the flip side, you see Porcupine desperately trying to make plays on the other side of the map, but you can't dive a Cassante, right? He's just going to damage reduction, 30% damage reduction every single time he presses that W when you're trying to dive under tower. On top of that, Porcupine didn't have an ulti, so there's just no play to be had on the other side of the map. Like you were saying, they gave up on the bot lane, even though that was the lane they were supposed to play for.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, the problem is they lost lane on the first wave. Like, they got poked out so hard on that first wave, but, like, their win condition there completely fell apart. Now, Denvoxy's worth a lot of gold, so if they can kill him, that's going to be big for them. He's looking to try and finish up Snabby! Denvoxy does it! The kill goes to Larry, but he got one on the way out.
And Fjompun manages to take him down with a nice flank from the mid bush. Unfortunately, Denvoxy caught with his pants down, just not realizing there's people behind him. And every single play has a counterplay. This Ruddy team and their team play. You know what? Rifty says, you may kill my AD carry, but I'm going to hit and half hit your tier 2 turret, which is worth even more gold. Right? And now you can see dragons spawning on the other side of the map. I don't think Nash is going to die here unless he takes an ultimate.
Oh, no, he's going to die. Ultimate not needed. I like the flash. It was maybe a little bit overeager, but, you know, at least it guaranteed that it was a point-blank Q and he was going to land it. Shaolin still being denied heavily on the farm department. I mean, look at the items. He's got Merc Treads and an Amp Tome to a Leandries. He is going back to base now, so we'll see what he picks up off this. A blasting one on an alternator, but that is a finished Leandries on Naito, and he's had that for a little bit, so his next base might be quite juicy here. Now, Denvoxy, I believe they didn't see Snabby and Porcupine there with that Hawk shot, so somebody probably should go up just to make sure that he's not in a 1v1, because he is very much in a 1v3 right now. Nash has the Ash Arrow. He's going to shoot it out, and he is going to connect. They've got the W, the Deadly Flourish, that's the one, to pin down Snabby if they need to. Denvoxy's dodging around everything. The Chains of Corruption land, the laser beam comes in through, and they trade out 1-for-1. Rifty will finish up the Lux in response as Snabby goes down. A 2-for-1 trade, but Denvoxy has been caught out twice in this top side.
And crucially, you're starting to see cracks in the armor from Ruddy. Lowry is managing, you know, to step up and find some picks, breathe a little bit of hope. You can probably imagine that the comms right now are some sighs of relief, right? Because if I was on that team, I'd definitely be sighing of relief right now. Our AD carry manages to find 2 kills. Denvoxy manages to get pegged here by the chest, gets all 3 blight stacks, and then Rifty just suddenly appears out of nowhere with that ghost and finishes off Snabby.
Snabby's laser beam actually was key for Denvoxy going down there as well. So really nicely placed shot there from Snabby. Rifty should be able to pick up this tower on the top side, just making sure, again, as much as the first wave does go out, it's still going to be a fairly large wave. And to be fair to Porcupine, he's been pretty on it with getting these dragons for his team. Whenever something happens on the other side of the map, he does quickly pull the trigger and turn his attention towards these dragons. So second one will go over to them. We'll see what kind of soul we're going to be working with. If it's an Infernal Soul, there's a world where the poke and the burst that could come in from Domino could actually start to stack up and be scary if they can pick it up. The problem they're going to have is they've lost all their outer towers now, so they have less of a position to push from, and No Name is looking for Porcupine. Porcupine's going to pop the Cyclone, is able to buy himself a little bit of space as he does flash in, finishing for the kill onto No Name. Dodging away on the Cocoon. The arrow's going to go a little bit wide. Porcupine continues to chase forward. No Name gets a bit of a heal in, but he's monkey bopped, and the shutdown goes to Porcupine. Lovely little pickup there from Domino, and Ruddy starting to show a few cracks in the armor here. Starting to show a little bit of problems.
Yeah, and this play might not be over. They might still chase Porcupine, but he's probably out right now. Unless Rifty manages to find him through the wall.
Well, it looks like he's going to try and pull the... Oh, he actually got out. No way did the decoy come up in time. That is so rotten. That is so rotten, man.
That's tickled me. That's tickled me. Because usually what happens is people try to do that and they just die, right? They just... and everybody's laughing, but they actually walked away thinking that was the clone, right? I mean, it's expected. The clone gets max second. It's on a super low cooldown. But, you know, that's something about it tickled me. Regardless, really good level of play individually from Porcupine. I think this is exactly what they need from Domino, and definitely a step up from his counterpart. I think Flowing didn't quite gel with the team. Porcupine is just finding solo plays, managing to find that 3-0 Elise and shut her down. Importantly, getting rid of those Dark Seal stacks and getting gold onto him to complete that Divine Sunderer. So at this next Dragon fight, that might secure the third Drake. Especially if, like you said, it's the Infernal Drake, which it is, right? Because we could tell from the map.
Oh, it is.
That could be a very... Nice bet. That could be a very real win condition.
Yeah, I mean, you've still got Lux Varus. Like, regardless, they can both individually do a lot of poke that could set up the team for these picks. Obviously, on the other side, you do have to worry about there's just, you know, a lot of single target CC. There's a lot of kind of range poke as well coming in. So I do worry about that on that front. I think, you know, Demvoxny, he has given up a few maybe less than intelligent kills, which were probably avoidable. Well, no, sorry. They were avoidable. They weren't probably avoidable. But he's still 2 items. He's got the Mortal Reminder. He's got the Gale Force. He is looking, you know, very, very strong right now. He still has an Ashe with the Umbral Glaive, so they're going to be doing a significant amount of damage. And on the other side, you know, Rifty, he's just been untouched so far. I say that, but they are rotating multiple members over. Snabby's been seen. Flumpbun's going to look to try and find Rifty. Rifty has popped the Ghost. He still has the ultimate to use. The Laser Beam, it's flashed away, or avoided away with the dash. He doesn't have flash, but in comes the Ash Arrow, and Nita throws down the Chaos Storm at the Porcupine. Porcupine jumps into Nita's face with the Cyclone, but the Laser Beam from Nita will finish him up.
And just a slight overreach from Porcupine, followed by the TP from Nita. On top of that, you always have to look at the cross-map play, right? Domino makes a play, overextending for Rifty, trying to find that kill. Rifty manages to escape with that Ghost. But Ruddy, on the other hand, take that tier 2 turret bot side. So it was just overall losing play. Domino invests time and XP and everything, summoner spells, to get that kill. Don't get it, and they end up losing a turret. So really good heads-up play from Ruddy, really solid macro, and really excellent mechanics from Rifty to survive.
Yeah, really, really nice stuff there by Rifty. Able to survive what was honestly a pretty scary scenario, but ultimately able to get out and hold his bounty. Larry now building towards his second item. Still behind the likes of Demvoxny. If our observers are listening, I'd like to actually have a quick tab over and see the individual gold and see where each of these players are at right now. Thank you very much. 9k on Demvoxny to 6.6 on Larry. Might have to hold this fort because it looks like Shaolin's looking for a play. Gets a whole bunch of bursts onto Demvoxny. Demvoxny does do a great job to turn it back around. He's stunned, he's locked, and No Name finds the kill. The curtain's being called, and Domino need to get out. It was a very solid attempt coming in, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. But in comes Flumpbun on the side, and he's able to secure a kill. Larry now dodging away for the moment. Knight is coming in on the flank, and they're looking to finish up Flumpbun. Rifty should just be able to zone Larry away, and Nita secures a double kill. Domino started it, but Ruddy ended it. 3-0, 3-1 fight.
And the whole play starts with Shaolin trying to find that pick. And you've got to wonder, was that the best fight they could have taken? Dragon spawning in less than 50 seconds, right? Maybe you just wait, find some vision, and make picks with that Akali instead. Instead, what they do is Shaolin sees this angle, forces his entire team to go forward without that poke condition of Varus, you know? You've got a lethality Varus. You have to get on the objective, then poke people as they try to come in. Instead, they say, no, we're just going to go full engage here. Maybe we kill. If we do kill, maybe we can start up a Baron, but it's a stretch. And then on the end of it, you see Flumpbun try and salvage things, but it just does not work out. And Porcupine critically falls as well. And at that point, you just have no damage.
Also, a key thing to note is, I was just taking stock of maybe they burnt summoner spells to set up for the dragon. They burnt Nash's heal, and Snabby also returned with a heal themselves. So, ultimately, it was a heal for heal trade. So they didn't even burn a lot of like key flashes because most of them were on cooldown. Then Voxy's only just about to get his one up. No Name just got his one back. I believe Nita also just got his one back as well. So they really didn't burn much for that. And what they lost was way more. They lost the Dragon, they lost 3 kills, and then Voxy, you know, he's sitting pretty. He was able to survive the onslaught onto him. Shaolin played that well. If he wasn't so far behind, I genuinely think Denvoxy would have survived there. Would have died there, but unfortunately, weren't able to quite connect it. And Porcupine tries to defend the tower, but it's not going to stand for long. Down it goes.
Yeah, and you just gotta wonder, it feels like desperation, right? It felt like what happened was Shaolin hit his Protobelt power spike and said, guys, we have to fight. I'm not gonna get any stronger than this compared to the enemy team because they're so accelerated. And he just pulled the trigger. But now, you can see lots of vision being placed. If you look on the minimap right now, see so many pink wards in the red side jungle. I was about to say forest then, I have no idea why. With that Baron started up, all this supporting vision, you've got to wonder, is this just going to be free?
Porcupine doesn't know what's going on. Knight is able to get a bit of poke off, dodging away on the Deadly Flourish, but the Ashar does hit. Snabby flashes away and dooms his jungler. Now he's actually eating the curtain calls to be able to survive for a little bit longer. Flumpon comes in onto that side, and they've actually already got a kill there for Shaolin, who's flanking away, and they're keeping the fight going. That's the trade. It's a 2 for free so far. No, it's a 2 for free so far. Domino do end up coming out on the weaker side of it. No Name is low HP. They don't have too much poke. Snabby is going to get caught by a Deadly Flourish. No final spark available. Will spot out the team, though, with his E. The Luminescent Spark giving him a little bit of vision. Maybe if you can throw a good Q down, he can steal it away, but it's not going to happen. No Name with the smite secures Baron.
And they're not going to pull attacks, so they're not going to steal, but into this replay we go. You can see Porcupine can't even get close because of all this Jin damage, but then there's a nice Fjumpun and Shaolin flank on the side, and this is just the best case scenario fight. Honestly, I expected them to just get 5-0'd because Porcupine wasn't even in that fight from the start, and now you've got to take all your vision. You've got to potentially look, right guys, we need to Death Bush or something because you know, it's getting to that time, you know, it's becoming Death Bush o'clock a little bit, desperately looking for picks. We've got to find something to not fall too far behind and maybe secure the Dragon win condition once more. I've got to say,
I will say
that Denvoxne
even though Porcupine did get, you know, poked out of that fight before it even started, it was a little bit closer than like you expected. Yeah. I mean, these guys actually looked fairly competent in that fight, and you are seeing, you know, there's this capability, but actually this could be quite a good team as Flumpun has popped the ultimate. He's gonna look to try and lock Nita down, doesn't actually go in time, and he's dead. That was just a complete miscommunication. No Name has to flash away. Shaolin can't find the damage. Yes, he can, but he's finished up by Nash on the Ash. That was a critical fail of communication between Flumpun and Snabby there, and they ended up losing pretty whole-handedly on that trade.
And Rifty is just unkillable. Look at Porcupine desperately trying to make a play into mid lane, trying to stop the waves crashing into stopping the siege, but you just can't because he's stacked full armor. Look at that Cassante's build. How do you even touch it without the Akali alive? And Rifty knows this. He's just barreling it down mid lane without a care in the world on his own. And this Baron siege was pretty damn good. You get 2 turrets and threats onto that inhib now. Oh, that snipe was very nice, but not quite enough to secure a kill. And Nash is just going to have his recall delayed a little bit, but he's still going to get away at the end of the day.
I mean, the key thing is, Nash has had that Umbral Grenade for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Snabby hasn't finished an item. He's got Lost Chapter and Lucidity Boots. That's it. Like, this is a very, very slow. I know supports don't get as much items as much gold, but like this is very behind
just
the curve.
completed Everfrost.
Yeah. Okay. So that's just come in, and as I said, that Imperial Mandate got finished for Ash. So it's an entire item difference between these two.
Yeah.
Nash is so much further ahead right now. You know, he's just chilling. He's so happy. He's been able to like get a lot of vision down for his team. Obviously using the Hawk Shot as well to provide a lot of vision in areas they don't have it, and they're just getting so much use out of this Ash. And yeah, that was an Ash arrow just fired. It's a third off cooldown already. It's on such a slow cooldown, 25 seconds until he can shoot it out again. So he can basically fire Ash arrows off cooldown and look for picks. As Nita killed Snabby. How did that happen?
I didn't even notice. must have just dropped the ultimate and just had it evaporate. What on earth happened to Snabby? But now it's just going to be triple inhib for free. I think it's a testament to just Knight having finished that death cap. He probably legitimately one-shot him with off screen without us knowing. Now this inhib's undefendable.
Oh!
Into the Ash Arrow.
Beautiful knockback, but those Merc Treads able to do a bit of work here. They're going to try and jump in on to the 1 kill. Larry's able to get it. As can Domino find their opportunity? No Name flashes away. The laser beam goes a little bit wide. They don't have a tower to worry about. 3-man Ashar, as they're actually going to go for the long-range teleport, and that's the flank. They just jump in and find the kill. The Cyclone's being popped by Porcupine, but it's a double kill for Den Voxney as he's looking for Snabby on the triple. Should be able to find it. A triple kill for Den Voxney as now Flumpun is next up on the menu. Can he find the kill? I don't think so. Quadra kill over to Den Voxney.
And Den Voxney with the quadra kill, just one-shotting everyone with every single auto attack. This man is a beast unleashed. Holding every single auto until it matters. He's gonna
give it to him. Can he get the penta kill? They're gonna jump in. Penta kill!
Pentakill for the side of Den Voxney. And I'm telling you, the #1 issue Jhin has normally is that he just lacks damage. This Jhin does not lack damage. Every single bullet half hits someone. Just take a look at this replay. The whole fight actually starts out looking Domino favored, but then nobody gets onto Den Voxney. He's just autoing Snabby, doing half his health every single time, and then the immobility of Renekton comes to play, where he just cannot move versus this duo of Elise and Jhin, and despite that move speed from the Merc Treads, it's just not enough. Gets the quadra kill, perfect amount of kills for a Jhin, and I think we're going to see the end of the game soon.
I think we are. We're going to see the penta. He played this, honestly. He did not risk spooking Porcupine. He played that really, really smart, to be honest. Really good stuff coming in. That's a 4-item Jhin. That is terrifying to look at. Level 16 as well. He's the same level as his mid lane. He is a higher level than anybody on Domino right now. And the curtain has been called. Let's see where they land. Porcupine's probably going to be first up on the menu. That's one already picked up for Den Voxney. They're going to chase him. A second for Den Voxney. Snabby now is on the firing range as Den Voxney finds himself another quadra kill. An ace for Ruddy. And an absolutely dominating game from these guys. 30 kills in 28 minutes. A bloodbath for Ruddy in our first game of the day.
And from minute 1, complete and utter domination. From Nash to transferring the lead to No Name, from transferring that lead to Den Voxney. Everyone on Ruddy pretty much stepped up, but I've got to highlight, I think it all stemmed from Nash. And for the MVP vote, because I know we have to do one, I want to put his name forward.
Ah, man. Normally I'm all for giving it to somebody else, but like, he got a pentakill, dude. He got really, really fed and played it really well. It has to be Den Voxney. It can't not be Den Voxney.
I mean, that's true. That's completely true. That's completely true.
I think in that game, as much as you can go, everybody held him up and is why they got so far ahead. It's got to be. It's always going to be Den Voxney. I'm just going to completely supersede you on that and say, yeah, Den Voxney.
I'll take it. I'll take it. That penta was crazy. that was a good penta.
It was. He just held the trigger. Like he didn't wait. Yeah. He didn't he didn't just immediately start shooting at Porcupine the moment he walked out. He kind of baited him and said, oh, yeah, I'm going to stand a little bit close to the tower, and then peeled back, made sure he got the backup as well there. It was really, really crisp coming in from him. Everybody looked really, really ready for that fight. I believe our interview's ready. Hello, Pride from Domino.
Hello.
How you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm doing okay. It's a little hard to watch, but I'm doing okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a bit of a rough one, and you are now ending week 2, 0-4 off the back of that. You know, where's the focus going to be for you guys now going into week 3? Obviously, the obvious answer is finding a win. You know, what are you going to be focusing on to achieve that win in week 3?
Well, we need to work on our obvious flaws. I guess find those flaws if we don't identify them. Today, I think I don't want to say cheese, but we fell for the like bait or strategy, and that kind of just snowballed from there. And you know, so that's the loss today. So forward, we just need to maybe develop a more solid game plan or develop our players a little bit more the coming weeks, and eventually we'll pick up that win, I hope. We had a rough start of the season in Division 2 last season, so we can bounce back for sure.
Yeah, so something I wanted to ask was, well, first of all, I wanted to say that I think Porcupine is playing fantastic, right? So I don't know what happened. Personally, I saw he got subbed in, but he's playing extremely well individually in both games yesterday and today. So I wanted to say, potentially keep playing him if that's a thing. But also, what else does he bring? Is he really good in comms? Like, what identity does Porcupine have to you?
He's been doing really well when we brought him back in, and he's very vocal now, and he's played with the team before, at least with Snobby and some of our other substitutes that we have. So he brings some sort of knowledge and a carry style that we can really play around. Very talented player. We're lucky to have him, and we're lucky to have him back. And if he keeps, working and improving, of course, then maybe he'll, help us get that win.
Yeah.
So I need to ask you an unrelated question. Does the octopus on your shoulder reflect the win or loss? Is there a happy face?
There is a happy face. We're waiting for it.
I really hope we get to see the happy face. Yeah. It's been a bit sad. Oh, poor green, sad, grumpy octopus.
Very grumpy octopus.
I mean, it's unfortunate you started on the 0-4, but, I have every faith in you guys. You can find those wins. There's still other teams in the league right now who haven't found a win as well. So, you guys have all played some of the stronger teams so far. So, obviously, it's been a bit of a rocky start. But, I'm excited to see, what Domino can become. I think we saw some really solid potential from you guys. Honestly, considering how far you're behind, some of those team fights were way closer than maybe they should have been. Is that something that maybe you guys have been focusing on as a team and working on just team fighting, or have you been working on different areas?
So our coach is very good at team fighting specifically, and that's something that he trained the first team that I brought him into, and we were the most dominating team fighting team in that league, and we were also pretty good at team fighting in Division 2 as well. So I think if we fix our early game issues, fix our maybe macro issues, then we will be the best team fighting league at some point, or best team fighting team in the league at some point, I think.
Genuinely, even though even though you guys are very low in the standings right now, there was some really, really clutch team fighting in there. I'm excited to see, what you guys will look like in a more even scenario. Pride, thank you very much for joining us for this interview. I'll let you go now, and hopefully we'll see that octopus smile in future interviews. We'll see you later, all right?
Yeah, see ya.
It's interesting because I genuinely, just kind of coming out from that, I did think they looked pretty good in some of those fights. I mean, the one I think about was kind of just north of Baron. And you think about that fight where, they were so far behind and they still traded, 2 for 3 or 1 for 3. And, it looked like so many more kills could have gone. It's so super, super close. I'm excited to see, what Domino can become, because we are only in week 2. There's still so many more weeks to come. I mean, how many weeks is the season? 8? 7 weeks, 7 regular weeks. So, I'm excited to see what these teams will become over the next 7 weeks. I think, honestly, while Ruddy looked very, very dominant, I think there were a few mistakes there. Now, maybe that was them having a bit of fun. I think those team fights shouldn't have been that close. I think Dem Voxley shouldn't have given 2 kills up in the top lane. And I think that might just boil down to just being so far ahead that the kind of confidence got into them a little bit.
Complacency.
And mistakes do leak out. Complacency, it felt like a little bit like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable. I imagine their coach is going to grill them for that. But yeah, you could tell, Den Voxley got picked topside and he got flanked from that bush by Fjumpen, I believe. And you could tell they just hadn't swept through or gone through the bushes to check who might be there pushing up to this tower, as an example. But no, you're completely right. Domino, they're frustrating. They're completely frustrating because you could see there are glimmers, right? There are little crumbs of goodness. But then they just throw it away all the way in the first 3 minutes. And that was my notes coming into this. They had a game like this before where Fjumpen actually died at 3 minutes in. And just the whole game plan is so hard now. If they just make it to lane phase. And that's what I really hope to see out of them. Just a bit better individual play in laning phase so that they can survive to play their win conditions. For example, Akali 6 and, stuff like this.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope so too. We are waiting on No Name for an interview. He's going to be here momentarily. Apparently, he's having a quick loo break before we get into the interview. I'm sure. I mean, that was such a quick game, man. They're probably. The thing I'm actually quite interested about is, you know, what's it like when you get that far ahead, and like, how much does that change up the game plan? Because I feel like a lot of teams prep for. They kind of prep for like more even games or more closer games or even games to play behind. But like, Aragon, I guess I'll ask to see you while we wait because you've been on a team. Do you actually often prep for like games when you're really far ahead and how to play from really far ahead, or do you normally prep the other way around?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. Usually when you play from ahead, it's not that difficult. Like playing from ahead, you can close out a game and it's semi-obvious what you should do, right? You just choke out, you play for 2 lanes, and the enemy can't do anything. That's typically how it is. So you don't necessarily need to prep for that, but there are stuff you can do, and I think it's more of a mentality thing, because everyone, I imagine, on this team knows how to close out a game using their role, right, specifically, and how to close out and how to shot call with a lead. In my opinion, it's just a mentality thing of, you know, we don't get lazy, we make sure we cover all our bases, and we treat every team the same regardless if we're ahead, and we play it out properly so that versus maybe an even better team. Like, let's say that was Riddle on the flip side, right? They had a lead against Riddle. They make sure they can close it out, because if they give over like that lead where, you know, when Den Voxney died twice, if they maybe give that over to like a better team, that could be, you know, a game ender, right? You just lose suddenly, and then that would just be great.
I mean, that is the problem with the complacency. That is the problem with, you know, when these teams do get ahead, you know, they can pay the price by, you know, making silly mistakes. I mean, Den Voxney dying twice, obviously, big old no. I'm sure he'll be aware of that. I'm sure he's going to be told of that. And I mean, I don't think he even needs to be told. I know he's going to be, you know, kicking himself a little bit, but that actually happened in the first place. But, you know, regardless, that was a very, very clean game from Ruddy. I mean, they're going to be happy with themselves. They got a pentakill onto Den Voxney. They're, you know, leaving week 2 3-1. Obviously, they'll be frustrated by the fact that in week 1 they lost that game to Riddle, but they are going to be stepping up and getting ready to go into those next games. Now, I do unfortunately have a little bit of an announcement. Unfortunately, our interview won't be happening. So what we're going to do instead, so we're going to throw to a break, and then when we'll be back with our second game of the day, which is going to be Veneer versus Unique. So see you in a moment.